أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد ومن كلام له لابنه محمد بن الحنفية لما أعطاه الرأي يوم الجمل. This is from, we have reached khutbah number 11 in Nahj al-Balaghah. This sermon also pertains to the events of Jamal, Battle of Jamal. So as you saw the previous few khutbahs, fortunately they were discussing some things that were related to the Battle of Jamal. This is no different. It says, وَمِن كَلَامٍ لَهُ فِي صِفَتِهِ وَصِفَتِهِ. Not this one. We go to khutbah number 11. Not 11. Khutbah 11. There we go. Now I'm in the right khutbah. This khutbah is addressed to Imam's son, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya. And when Imam had given him the ra'ya, the flag on the Battle of Jamal, Tazul al-Jibalu wa la tazal. Imam, this is one of those khutbahs, eloquent khutbahs, where you see a father speaking to a son and giving him instructions in regards to how do you stay firm in a battlefield, and what are some of the etiquettes of being part of a battlefield. Now, of course, you and I may never have the opportunity to do this in a real battlefield, but we can definitely use these words to counter it in the battle of nafs, right? So we're never going to be in the battlefield, but we will be always doing jihad with our nafs. So we won't be doing jihad bisayf, with sword, but we'll be doing jihad bin nafs. So you can utilize these 7 segments that Imam talks about, one-liner basically, if you look at it, and gives these instructions to his son. Now, we've already talked about the role of Muhammad al-Hanafiya in Battle of Jamal, and even other battles. And in the previous khutbahs, we've already talked about the historical aspect of it, so I won't go into the historical aspect. I'll just stay, focus on what Imam is saying over here. So these are brief yet impactful and heartwarming words from a father, from an Imam to his son, a son that he loves a great deal, articulates an important part of the military instructions for him in 7 sentences. What is the first sentence? Tazulul jibalu. Tazulul jibalu wa la tazal. That, oh my son, hold your position firm. Tazulul jibal, literally, the mountains will move. Tazulul jibalu wa la tazal. But you should not move. Now, mountains don't move. Do the mountains move? But if ever the mountains were to move, you should still not move. That's how firm you should be. Now, mountains never move. Imam is giving this analogy where we all know that mountains don't move an inch. They remain steadfast, firm in their places. But Imam says, even if the mountains were to move, you should never move. Even if the mountains were to crumble, it says tazul, do not falter. The most crucial matter on the battlefield is what? Steadfastness. Imam is also alluding to those who used to flee the battlefield, those who used to run away from the battlefield. What is he teaching his sons? Regardless of what the situation may be. Don't be like the people when they heard Qutila Muhammad has been killed, and they say, well, let's go. Let's run away. No. Without which, achieving victory is impossible. So if everybody started thinking that way and they started fleeing, they started running away, then there's no way of achieving victory. Imam Ali places his finger on this matter at the outset. This sentence could allude to the content of a famous saying attributed to, of course, all of the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen are, inspired by the kalam of Rasulullah. So where Rasulullah has said, the believer is like a steadfast mountain that cannot be moved by storms, no matter how hard or strong the storms may be, the mountains do not move from its place, unshaken by the storms and the tempests. Storm may come, they might blow away the houses, which are weak and frail, but they will never be able to blow away the mountains. So in another tradition, Prophet has said the believer is firmer in his religion than the upright mountains. So here the crux of the discussion is, when it comes to your religious beliefs and your faith and the doctrines and the tenets of the religion, what should you be? Uncompromising. There shouldn't be any compromise. Lakum dinukum waliya deen. To you your religion, to me my religion. I'm not going to go out and compromise on these beliefs because, for example, I live in this part of the world. That's how the believer is more steadfast in his religion than the mountains are in their places, because sometimes mountains are carved. So mountains don't move. We know that. But what can happen to the mountains? People can carve it. You drive through many of the plains and you see that, you can visibly see that the mountains were carved and then the roadway was created. Even when you speak about the people of Ad and Thamud, a lot of the discussion about people of Ad and Thamud was what? That they used to carve the mountains and they used to make houses on top of the mountains. How would they make houses? By carving, by making these windows and stuff like that so they can go inside and live, whereas they will have an upper hand on the enemy because they are on top. So carving of the mountain is easy. Mountain may not move, but you can still carve it. He said mu'min is more steadfast than a mountain. You can't even carve a mu'min. Move करना तो दूर की बात है, उसको काट पीट भी नहीं सकते, उसको इंसान जो है वो हल्का भी नहीं कर सकता. So that's what basically this first sentence means. Number 2, Imam says, غض عن ناجزك. Clamp your teeth firmly together. Clamping of the teeth. Again, each one of these words, commentators have spoken a great deal. Now we're going to stick to very basic commentary on this. Najz from najizik sometimes is interpreted as the teeth that come after the incisors, and sometimes as the wisdom tooth. So sometimes all the teeth or all the molars. So basically, literally, the teeth are being addressed over here. What is Imam saying over here when he says to his son regarding the discussion to remain steadfast in the battlefield, where it says, grit your teeth, or my translation, clamp your teeth together. When you clamp your teeth, what do? Like this, right? Why would someone clamp their teeth? Why would Imam say this instruction, especially in a battlefield? What does clamping of the teeth mean when you're standing in the battlefield? Well, here, the third meaning is appropriate. It is said that clenching the teeth has 2 benefits. Number 1, it alleviates the fear and terror. When you hold your teeth like this, you're getting rid of the terror and the fear that is approaching you. So sometimes what happens, when you are facing a dangerous situation, you start shaking. When you start shaking, your mouth also starts shaking. Your mouth also starts making this noise. Your teeth are banging against each other, right? Especially when you're cold, also, you're going like this, you're shivering, your teeth are, banging against you. Imam said, don't. Hold them together firmly. When you hold them together, it will lower the fear that you're facing right in front of you in the form of the enemy that is coming to you. So he says, hold it together, the trembling subsides. Secondly, it keeps the bones. And this is the wisdom of Ali. We don't know, and science, I don't know, has proven it or not. It says the second thing is that it keeps the bones of the head firmly in place and reduces the damage from enemy's blow. So So if you hold your teeth together, if someone strikes you on the head, it will limit the damage to your bones. Now that's the wisdom of Ali. We don't know this fact. Humans have not gone that far. But holding your teeth together like this, and if someone is striking you, you'll be able to limit the damage. A similar meaning is found in another sermon of Nahj al-Balaghah, where Imam says, clamp your teeth together firmly, for this action lessens the impact of sword on the head. So agar sword, talwar lag rahi hai sar pe, that too will also be lessened by you holding your teeth together. Number 3, Imam said, A'ir Allah jumjumatak. Now these are, of course, words of eloquence that Ali is using. These aren't the words that you hear normally Arabs talk and use in their conversation. He says, offer your skull bare to God. This implies lend Allah your head in fighting for Allah. Give yourself to Allah. So lending your head. Jumjuma is referring towards your head. Lend it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give this as a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This implies be ready for sacrifice. Show your bravery, martyrdom in the way of Allah, as it is the readiness in the essence of courage, bravery, and the previous sentence is steadfastness. Some commentators of Nahj al-Balaghah use this sentence as a prediction and good news regarding the fate of Muhammad Hanafiya. That Imam is speaking to him, that when Imam says, give your head as a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning what? He is going to go ahead and sacrifice himself and present himself in the battle of Jamal, suggesting that you will emerge safely from this battlefield, as the concept of bearing implies reclaiming what is hidden. You reclaim, you find what was hidden from you, that victory, you'll bring it back, and you will emerge as victorious over here. I'm going through this quickly. It says, Tid fil arde qadamak. This is similar to the first one, where Imam says, plant your feet firmly on the ground. This indicates that the thought of retreating and fleeing from the battlefield should never arise. Plant your feet so that you can't move, you can't retreat, you can't go back. That means you should throw out your mind the first concept of running away. That should not be an option for you when you are standing in front of the enemy in the battlefield, especially when you are defending the religion of Islam. And one should stand firm against the enemy, just as the noble Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, idha laqitum fi'atan fa'bitu. That the sentence says, when you meet your enemy, when you have you met a company, stand firm in it. This sentence may offer from the first sentence. You look at the first sentence that I said, where Imam was telling, remain firm and steadfast. You see there's a similarity between the two, but there's difference from the first sentence is that the first one expresses the wavering of thoughts and the spirit, while the last one considers the absence of wavering in appearance, physically. Pehla wala jo tha, that was talking about your mind should not falter, your mind should not be, in sort of a juggling situation where you're wavering and you're thinking and your concept is coming to your mind. Here, literally, physically, even if the mind is not with you, you should physically plant your feet that you should not move. Sometimes, I don't know if it has ever happened to you, you want to retreat, you want to go back, but your feet are stuck. You're like, no, that's not happening. In my mind, in my heart, I want to leave, but your feet are saying, no, stay back. This is what you got to accomplish. So the difference between the first and fourth is what? First one is more mental, and the fourth one is more physical. It says, Irmi bi basarika aqsal qawm. Keep your gaze fixed on the farthest ranks of enemy. Have your eye on the remotest of the foe. So when you're fighting in a battle, 1,000 people are in front of you, Of course, not all 1,000 are right in front of you. The first few are in front of you. They're main fighters. And then those who are not the main fighters, they're what? In the back. Imam said, don't just keep your eye on those that are standing in front of you. Keep your eye on the farthest of the enemy. Don't neglect that further away enemy, that you're busy with these first who are standing in the ranks high. No, keep your eyes fixed on the farthest ranks of the enemy. This gaze enables one to survey the entire battlefield and the enemy's forces, observing the military formations everywhere on the field and being aware, having this awareness of their numbers and capabilities. How many are there? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, however many they may be, you're able to see it from a bird's eye view, thus making strategic calculations for either offensive or defensive actions based on the sounding. So if I attack these first few, and I look at that, that's how far their military ranks goes. That means what? What can I do next? I can either go on the offense or I can either go back on the defense, depending on how many are standing in front of me. Imam said, وَغُضْ بَصَرَكَ, and lower your gaze. Now this is an instruction that you find in Quran, Surah Nur, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O those who believe, lower your gaze in front of things which are not allowed for you to see. Or, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, rather Rasulullah, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ غَضُّوا أَبْصَارِهِمْ, or قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ أُغْضُضْنَ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze, lower their eyes. Tell the believing women to lower their eyes. That instruction is about akhlaqiyat, right? You should not have your eyes just running around, especially when you are in the presence of na-mahram. Why in the battlefield? Who's na-mahram in the battlefield? If anyone comes, it's your enemy. You should be opening your eyes and attacking all the time. So this sounds like Imam ﷺ, why? Is he throwing in between while he's giving military instructions some akhlaqiyat in the middle of it? This sentence can either mean literally to avoid constantly on distant areas, focusing on it in the battlefield, constantly focusing on the distant areas. Don't keep on looking up. No, lower your gaze, meaning you're looking at the close ones as well. While the previous one is telling you to look at the further one, get a peek on the further one, but don't remain focused on the furthest one. Because if you remain focused on the furthest one, the front one will attack you. No, look at it, take a peek, and then come back over here. So maybe that's what it means. Sometimes to induce fear and anxiety, as repeated focus on some people that you're looking at can induce fear, anxiety, and instead, one should only look around oneself. Note that lowering the gaze here doesn't mean closing your eyes, like it is in Surah Nur, when it says, O Prophet, tell the believing men to close their eyes. Tell the believing women to close their eyes. Over there, the instruction is to close their eyes. Here, it cannot be that way. You can't close your eyes while you're in the middle of a battlefield. It could be metaphorical meaning to disregard the multitude of enemy forces. Sometimes, when you look at the enemy forces, you say, well, there are 10,000 of them, and we're only a few hundred. So lower your gaze. Don't look over there. Why? This will bring fear into your own heart. What are we going to do? Lower your gaze. So this could be one of the metaphorical meanings, to disregard the multitude of enemy forces and their equipment and not be distracted by them, but rather bravely and courageously confront the enemy, striking your blows relentlessly, and then leaving everything on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do your job, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you out. Why? Because it says, O Prophet, exhort your people, حرّد المؤمنين إلى القتال. Get mu'mineen ready for qital. One of them is equal to the 10 of the enemies. 100 of them are equal to the 1,000 of the enemies. If mu'min is firm in his belief and he's determined in what he wants to achieve, now one moment is equal to 10 غير mu'min. That's the ayat of Quran says. So even if you are 100 and they are 1,000, even if you're 1,000 and they are 10,000, don't worry about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you that courage. And you saw in Battle of Badr, 313, with very limited resources in front of what? 1,000 enemies. Similarly in Uhud as well. Although Muslimin lost 70 men in the Battle of Uhud, but strategically speaking, they actually won the battle. And they struck more of the enemy. Aside from the fact that those who left their places and Khalid bin Walid turned around and came back and attacked the Muslimin from the backside. Another place in Nahj al-Balaghah where it says, and lower your gazes, for it strengthens, resolves, and calms the heart, implying that by lowering your gaze in the battlefield, heart will become stronger and your spirit more composed. And the last line, Imam said, وَأَعْلَمْ rather, أَنَّ النَّصْرَ مِنْ إِنْدَ اللَّهِ سُبْحَانَهُ. And make sure that you understand the victory and triumph come only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This indicates that all that has been said pertains merely to the outward means and the preparation. This is just preparation. Remain steadfast, hold your ground, let the mountains move, but you shouldn't move, lower your gaze, keep eye on the furthest of the enemy. These are all the preparations for a battle. This is all your part. You can do all of this. This is in your means, within your means. You're capable of doing all this. Victory will come or not, that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is your preparation. While the crucial factor is the will of God, from which victory and triumph originate, therefore place your heart, place your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rely on Him, seek ultimate success from Him, as He is capable and powerful over all things, and is compassionate and merciful towards you. When you show such commitment toward His cause, His faithful and striving servants, just as we read in Quran, وَمَن نَصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ إِنْدِ اللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَكِيمِ, that victory is not but from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is exalted, the one who is the wise. Victory comes solely from Allah, and Allah Almighty, interestingly, Quran begins this verse by mentioning the assistance of the angels, but nevertheless emphasizes the victory and triumph are not in the hands of the angels. Even if the angels were coming and helping you, and they were making the enemy look that you are more in number, and making you look that enemies are less in number, even then, angels do not have victory and triumph in their hands. Who eventually has the victory in his hands? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where this khutbah concludes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You stop over here, or we can go to the next khutbah. Stop over here? All right, we'll stop over here. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq and ability to ponder in the words of Amirul Mu'mineen, understand these pieces of wisdom, and make us realize the commands and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wa salam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma sallam.